Excuse me, I couldn't help but notice that you're trespassing on private property. I like your style. You and I are going to be best friends. Best friends tend to chat about what they've been up to, so we should do that. I'll go first. I recently played through Luigi's Mansion 2, the HD version on the Switch. I did play the 3DS version originally, but there's something about that high definition that I'm drawn to. Who would settle for a meager standard definition? That's like marrying your second choice of spouse. If I'm going to get married, I want my partner to be the cream of the crop, so much so that it makes me cream on my crop. It's been roughly a year since I played the first Luigi's Mansion. I thought it was a pretty fun and unique game, and I was hungry for another taste, so on this HD revisit of Luigi's Mansion 2, I decided to pay close attention to it and answer the question, how good is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD? Buckle up, bestie, let's crack on. The game begins on a peaceful night in Evershade Valley. Human Egg Professor Egad is doing something with the assistance of some helpful green ghosts who have been pacified by the dark moon that floats ominously in the night sky. Suddenly, King Boo appears and shatters the dark moon, causing all of Egad's haunting helpers to go feral and completely wreck the joint as if it was a 21st birthday. In response to this, Egad does what any normal person would do and kidnaps a local plumber by dragging him through a TV screen. Luigi, who is absolutely devastated to be in the presence of this ghost-obsessed madman once again, is tasked with exploring the various mansions in Evershade Valley to recover the shards of the Dark Moon and restore it to put an end to all the chaos. Now, any normal person would probably just leave the valley in the hopes of staying alive. But for every Shaggy and Scooby that wants to get the fuck out, there's a Fred, Daphne and Velma who want to get the fuck in. So, let's do it. The thing about this game that immediately hit me like a brick to the face was the fact that it's oozing with personality, which is largely because of the ghosts. The ghosts are so charming in this game. There are many points where you just walk into a room and you can observe the ghosts just messing around and having fun. Even within the first few missions, you get a real taste for their playful paranormal behavior. I just like watching them do stuff. They're just silly little guys. I kinda just want to let them carry on. Fuck putting the Dark Moon back together. Let's let them be themselves. It was tempting, but this is a game, and sitting there watching the ghosts would make for a pretty shit game, so I figured I should just be the party pooper and start sucking them off. Up. Luigi's Mansion 2 maintains the core idea of the gameplay from the first Luigi's Mansion. You've got the Luigi, you've got the mansion, but what is the 2? The 2, my friend, is everything that was changed or added to this game. I feel that there were many great tweaks and additions to Luigi's arsenal in this game that made the experience a hell of a lot more fun. In the first Luigi's Mansion, I wasn't very good at flashing. I was nervous because what if the ghosts didn't like my cock and balls? It turned out I was right to be nervous because when I flashed them, a lot of the time they would just immediately disappear, so I couldn't suck them off. Up. The intended effect was to have them so stunned by my crown jewels that they would be unable to move, allowing me to suck them off without any trouble. Up. I wasn't very good at that. I was like a stripper who tried to seduce patrons by adding more layers of clothes rather than taking them off. Luigi's Playboy Mansion. Luigi's Mansion 2 lent me a hand by adding an actual flash ability to Luigi's torch, meaning I can keep my pants on and also have an easier time stunning the ghosts and sucking them off with the poltergust machine. Up. Luigi's Playboy Mansion 2. The poltergust itself has been improved as well, allowing you to press A during your suction to deal some real damage and suck up every last drop of ectoplasm. The whole process of catching ghosts has been made a lot more consistent. It's not easier, it's more consistent, and that's the sort of improvement I wanted to see. Luigi also has access to a new gadget called the Dark Light device. This is a sort of attachment to the torch that allows Luigi to flash dark light. This dark light can be used to find the hidden cum stains in Luigi's Playboy Mansion. It can also be used to break illusions and find hidden doors, furniture, and other thematically related objects in the environment that will help Luigi to progress. Or not, sometimes it just has a bit of currency in there. Currency returns in Luigi's Mansion 2 as well. In the first Luigi's Mansion, currency did nothing but contribute to the game telling you how shit you were at everything. But in this game, it actually makes a tangible impact. With enough moolah, Luigi's suckage power and cum-stain torch duration will be increased, allowing them to be stronger and last longer respectively. That's a good change. It's an incentive to actually go out and earn some real money. Something that this current economy doesn't really reward. This, along with the inclusion of hidden gem collectibles, encourages you to look around, explore and see what you can find, and I think that's really cool. Not much can excite me more than the idea of ransacking a mansion. The structure of Luigi's Mansion has changed in this second entry. They've done some renovations and changed the way you go through it. In the first Luigi's Mansion, you were sort of just left to go through it. You had the whole mansion to yourself, and you were left to explore it and progress in each area however you could. Luigi's Mansion 2 takes a different approach, in the sense that it's broken down into missions. Each mission has a specific objective, and once you complete that objective, the mission ends, and you're warped back to Egad. I don't know if I like this more than the original approach. Having separate missions does make the game more organized and allows you to have a clearer idea of what's going on, but I also think it interrupts the flow of the game a little bit because you're repeatedly being warped in and out of the mansion with each mission. I think I'd rather just complete each set of missions all in one go, and then be warped out to move on to the next set of missions. It would help all the objectives feel like they're more connected to each other, and it would feel more like it's all contributing to a major goal, rather than just feeling like a bunch of separate smaller goals. I don't think Luigi's Mansion 2's approach is worse, it's just different to what it was before. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but my personal preference would be to have one big mission instead of 5 small missions, you know what I mean? But I do think the mission system works. I like how it helps organize the game, and I like how each mission gets graded as you complete them. Gives you an idea of how well you're doing, rather than waiting until the very end of the game to call you shit. What I really can't knock the game for though is variety. Luigi's Mansion 2 has so much more variety across the board. The number of mansions should be a dead giveaway for that really. The first game only had the 1 mansion, and this game has a grand total of 5. And I think we'll all agree, 5 is a bigger number than 1. And this really is a boon. Each mansion has a different theme, from mansion to botany and waterworks, to sand, to ice, to mansion with botany and fireworks, sand and ice. This not only allows for some great variety in presentation and locations, even though they all have slightly different versions of the same song playing in the background, it also means you get to explore and discover 5 different unique locations, which is a lot compared to the first game's single location. Each mansion feels very different from the next. You never know what you're going to be faced with. There is also a lot of variety in the types of ghosts that you face. The green ghosts are your most basic enemy, but they tend to fight you using objects found in the environment. Red ghosts are big and pack a huge punch, blue ghosts like to hide from you, pink ghosts like to sneak up on you, yellow ghosts like to throw up on you. There's just a lot of variety in the kinds of enemies you fight. This applies to the bosses as well, which all offer something totally unique and thematically relevant to their respective mansions. I also really appreciate the cleverness of this game's puzzles. Obviously I already spoke about the illusions revealed by the Darklight device, but there's so much more than that. I love how the game plays with the elements, such as encouraging arson. You occasionally need fire to burn something out of the way. Other times you need water to help something grow. Interacting with certain elements in the environment will cause new passageways to appear. You might need to weigh down a switch or balance a scale or something. There's a lot. It's nothing mind-boggling, but it's enough to get you thinking, and it makes you more aware of your surroundings. And tools like the Darklight device only serve to amplify that. A lot of these little puzzles contribute to earning gems. I really made an effort to find them. As a lifelong Crash and Spyro slut, it's my instinct to hunt for gems and collect them all. I failed, but I tried my best and ended up finding quite a few. And I loved solving cheeky little puzzles and finding fun hiding places. It was satisfying. The only thing I didn't like having to deal with was the toads. Fucking Christ. For some reason, the toads in this game really, and I mean really, pissed me off. They don't appear often, but when they do, it took everything in my power to not snap my switch like a Kit Kat. Occasionally, Luigi will have to rescue a toad from a portrait and escort them to safety. In principle, I have nothing against that. I'm always in favor of providing a helping hand to those in need. But if said those in need are these pricks, I'd rather kick them while they're down. The toads are scared of absolutely everything. The ghosts I can understand, but a lot of their fears I don't understand. There's a toad that is afraid of clocks. What do you mean you're afraid of clocks? I get that the very passage of time is something that stresses out a lot of people, but to be afraid of an actual clock to the point that you're not even willing to walk past one is ridiculous. That's like saying, I'm a very selfless person. I prioritize others over myself. I don't even like thinking about myself. That's why I'm deathly afraid of mirrors. It's so dumb. There's a toad that isn't even willing to step into, 3 centimeters of water? The water level doesn't even rise past the sole of Luigi's shoes, and this toad refuses to walk through it. You need to hold their hand almost literally and guide them through rooms to get them to one of EGAD's pixelator machines. Again, an escort mission is fine in concept, but the tiniest gust of wind causes these toads to freak out. They start uncontrollably running around and screaming. and it's just so infuriating to deal with. They slow the pace of the game down to a halt, and they're the only part of this game I actively dislike. Dealing with these toads must be what it's like to have kids. The toads in Luigi's Mansion 2 are more effective birth control than condoms. You deal with these toads at multiple points throughout the game. In the final mansion, there are 2 toads you have to escort at once, and I genuinely threw my head back in frustration because I didn't want to deal with these fuckers again. But that's when I realized that Luigi's Mansion 2 does recycle quite a few objectives throughout the game. The toads are the obvious one, there's almost one in every mansion, but there are other objectives that come up multiple times as well. In a few mansions, Luigi needs to be able to open some kind of door that requires a mechanism, but the ghosts come in to destroy the mechanism and they split the mechanism's parts up. Luigi needs to explore the mansion and round up the parts from the ghosts. This happens multiple times. It happens with the gears in Gloomy Manor, it happens with the pinwheel in Haunted Towers, and it happens with the clock hands in the old Clockworks. There are also a few times where you need to chase down a ghost dog. It's not a bad thing, with the exception of the toads. None of these objectives are outright bad, and there's nothing wrong with recycling the same types of mission. All sorts of games do that, which results in some amount of repetition. But it's just one of the things that I noticed while despairing at the fact that I had to look after more toads. One other thing I noticed was that this game really does hold your hand a lot. The first Luigi's Mansion just sort of let you do whatever you wanted, and left you to figure most things out on your own. Luigi's Mansion 2 gives you a lot more direction, which I suppose is good for the kids and dumbasses playing, but for me it did ruin it slightly. Frequently, EGAD would chime in with some advice regarding Luigi's current scenario. Criminy, it looks like this problem has happened. I wonder if you tried this solution. Maybe that would fix the problem that has happened. I reckon you can find what you need for the solution in this specific room that I've marked on your map. Like, come on man, let me figure it out myself. Give me some agency. It's not that bad, but I did find it often pointed me in the right direction without giving me a chance to work out which direction was the right one myself. And that's the whole reason you'd play a game like this. I did feel like this was an easier game as a result. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a thing. A thing that, whether it's good or bad, depends on the person. It didn't have that much of a negative impact on my experience though. You still need to figure out the solutions on your own. I just wish EGAD would shut up so I could better hear myself think. The gameplay itself was still great despite him throwing in his 2 cents, even though it wasn't wanted. After going through each mansion and recovering the pieces of the Dark Moon, Luigi finds himself facing off against King Boo for the fate of Evershade Valley, his brother Mario, whose presence in this game isn't really explained, and also the world. It's a pretty sick final boss fight actually, and a great way to end a great game. I had a lot of fun with Luigi's Mansion 2. It felt like an all-around improvement on the first Luigi's Mansion. It had great presentation with a wider variety in locations and music, it had a simple but solid story, it had a lot of charm and personality, mainly because it was fun to watch the ghosts muck around, and the gameplay was consistently strong. The ghost catching had improved over the first game, the addition of the Darklight device was great and added an extra layer to exploration with some hidden in plain sight antics, and it had some inventive puzzles and missions. It was great. The only thing wrong with the game was those fuck-ass toads. Beyond that, I had a great time. They did a good job adapting the game from the 3DS as well. They had to make some changes due to the lack of the second screen, but they made it work. And for an HD version of a 3DS game, it looks pretty fucking good. All in all, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD was a paranormally good game, and I would rate it a yes out of 10. But enough about me, what have you been up to, bestie?